Okay, so good morning everyone. In the last session, we had gone through 5G new radio spectrum related aspects, and these were 7 topics. We had covered the first 5 topics and 2 topics, that is carrier aggregation and bandwidth part, we'll be covering now. So before we start the new topics, let us have a recap, and I would request all of you to kindly uh, be interactive in the sense that I may be asking questions and you please write in chat box or you can open your mic and speak about that. The first subtopic which we had covered was frequency band supported by 5G new radio. So we had discussed that 5G supports lower part of the frequency band, mid band and also the high band, that is millimeter wave. 3GPP in its specification have defined 2 frequency ranges, FR1, frequency range 1 and frequency range 2. So if you remember that, please in the chat box you can write what is the range of FR1 and what is the range of FR2. For the benefit of everyone, FR1 starts from 410 megahertz till 7.125 megahertz, and FR2 frequency range 2 is from 24 gigahertz to 52 gigahertz. The next topic we covered was channel bandwidth supported in 5G new radio. So there also in frequency range 1, the channel bandwidth supported minimum was 5 megahertz and maximum was 100 megahertz in FR1. In frequency range 2, the minimum bandwidth supported was, yes, somebody has answered and your answer is right. Good that everyone is trying, becoming interactive. I've opened a second screen where I can see your uh, whatever you write in chat box. So in FR2, the minimum channel bandwidth supported is 50 megahertz and maximum was 400 megahertz. We had also discussed about waveform and the modulation used in 5G new radio. We had discussed about OFDM, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, and the modulation we had understood that QAM modulation up to 256 QAM is used in 5G new radio up to release 16. We had also discussed about 5G new radio numerologies, subcarrier spacing and resource block. So numerology, when we say numerology, what we actually mean is the subcarrier spacing. So numerology 0 is your subcarrier spacing of 15 kilohertz. Numerology 1 is subcarrier spacing of 30 kilohertz and so on, 60 kilohertz, 120 kilohertz and 240 kilohertz. So in all you have 5 numerologies starting from 0 up to 4. The fourth numerology is subcarrier spacing of 240 kilohertz, that is only used for signaling. We had also understood resource block, that is 12 consecutive subcarriers are called resource block RB. And then we had also discussed relationship between numerology, frequency band and the cell size and also the latency. So what we had understood that lower frequency band, low frequency bands will be using lower numerology, say 15 kilohertz, and the cell size will be bigger for the larger coverage or the rural coverage or IoT coverage will be using the lower part of the band. The mid band would be using slightly higher side in the numerology, maybe 30 kilohertz and 60 kilohertz. Will be used for a smaller cell size in the urban uh, areas, and millimeter wave side numerology will be on higher side, maybe 120 kilohertz, and cell size will be small cell concept, and latency will be better in higher numerology. So latency is like for lower numerologies it will be slightly more, but for higher numerologies and higher frequency band, it will be slightly lower, the way these are designed in 5G. And now the two topics, that is carrier aggregation CA and bandwidth part, will be covering now. So let us start with carrier aggregation. So let me ask you if any of you can tell me that when we say carrier aggregation, what actually we mean and what benefit we can accrue from this concept. Either you can open your mic or write in the chat box that with carrier aggregation, what exactly you want to achieve. Please write in chat box, or you can open your mic and speak.
Two different careers with many careers cater to the same in uplink or downlink, that is the continuously bandwidth and the download speed of the throughput.
Very right, very right. And one more request, that while you ask question uh, uh, in your mic, you should also open your video, because we had not had introduction session. So with this question answer, perhaps we'll know each other. So maybe the next person who is asking the question can, while opening the mic, you can also open video for that moment, and then you can close it after your question or after we have interacted with. So thank you for answering right. And somebody, Vinay ji and Nitin, have answered in chat box that it is a higher data rate or higher bandwidth. So both of you are right. So let us understand the concept that when we say carrier aggregation, so what exactly it can mean. So in this picture, what you see is a frequency band A and frequency band 2. So in this example, there are two component carriers. So we call it component carrier when, so this one is say CC1 and this is your CC2, and they are contiguous. So such component carriers can be aggregated uh, in a concept of carrier aggregation, and this we call it intra-band contiguous, because they are from the same band and they are contiguous. So such component carrier can be aggregated. Now the next is that you have a frequency band, say frequency band A. The component carriers are from the same frequency band, but they are not contiguous. So such component carrier can also be aggregated, and we call it intra-band non-contiguous, right? In the third example, I have frequency band A, where I have component carrier 1 here, and the next is the frequency band B, where I have this component carrier 2. So such component carrier can also be aggregated. So in nutshell, all permutation combination of different frequency band, intra-band, interband, contiguous, non-contiguous, the component carriers can be aggregated to have a larger channel bandwidth, and hence the larger or the higher speed or the data rate. Now let us recap the carrier aggregation concept which was used in 4G, right? So 4G started in 3GPP release 8. So in release 8, there was no concept of carrier aggregation. So the concept of carrier aggregation came in release 10. So in release 10, as we know that in 4G, the maximum channel bandwidth supported was 20 megahertz. So in release 10, they came out with carrier aggregation up to 5 component carrier. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And the maximum channel bandwidth was 20 megahertz. So theoretically, if all these component carriers are having 20 megahertz, so the overall channel bandwidth which can be achieved was 100 megahertz. And all of you are aware, we had understood in our earlier session day 1 that the peak spectral efficiency in case of a 4G LTE or LTE advanced we should say, was 1 Gbp, 10 bit per second per hertz. So with 100 megahertz, you can achieve 1 Gbps, right? 1 Gbps would have been achieved. And this was the requirement for a technology to be qualified as 4G or IMT advanced in terms of ITU. So that means the LT advanced, which was released then, was the actual 4G, which was using concept of carrier aggregation, and up to 5 component carrier were getting aggregated. In subsequent releases, in this we are showing release 13, they further enhanced that up to 32 carrier component could have been aggregated, right? So the maximum channel bandwidth possible was 640 megahertz. So I was talking about 4G LT, the various releases of 4G LT. And let us take this example. This I have taken from 3GPP website. There is a kind of a white paper available, which anyone can read. So in this example, they have taken 3 component carriers. The 2 are from the say band 1 and one is from band 2. And these are kind of a lower band, lower frequency bands. And this compared to this is from slightly higher side of the band. So in this example, from this particular G node B or E node B base station, there are 3 cells now using the 3 different component carrier. This is from band 2, which is higher, and these are from band 1. The coverage would be almost similar. So because band 2 is higher side of the band, the coverage which you get from this band 2 is lower compared to the band 1, because those are from the lower frequency band. So how these are used is that one of the component carrier which is on lower side having almost larger coverage. In this example, the blue one, whatever you see in blue color, this is configured as primary serving cell, and rest 2, the green and red one, is configured as secondary serving cell. So there are 3 cells. So one becomes primary and 2 becomes secondary. So the primary cell will carry data as well as control signaling, right? Whereas the other 2 secondary cells will only carry data, right? So suppose a mobile is here in this location. So for control signaling, it is using this blue component carrier, and for data it can use the blue one, the green one, and the red one, right? So the data speed will be, very high, because the channel bandwidth of green one, blue one, and red one, all 3 are combined, and it is being used here. Now if mobile is here where you don't have coverage of the band 2 but still have coverage of 2 component carrier, so here also there will be a carrier aggregation but with only 2 component carrier, but the control part will always be on one cell, that is blue in this example. So this is how the carrier aggregation is leveraged for getting higher speed or higher data rate or the higher channel bandwidth, both in uplink direction and in downlink direction. So this is one of the concept. Now let us learn about the concept of carrier aggregation in 5G. So the 5G supports carrier aggregation up to 16 component carriers. So 16 component carrier can be aggregated in 5G. So just understand that the channel bandwidth in 5G in FR1 was 100 megahertz, and in FR2 it was 400 megahertz. If you take it theoretically, that suppose I have 16 component carrier, right, and the channel bandwidth is 400 megahertz for all the component carriers. So how much bandwidth I will be able to achieve? Can somebody write in the chat box that I have channel bandwidth of 400 megahertz for each of the component carrier, and I have 16 component carrier. So theoretically, how much channel bandwidth I will be able to achieve? Can somebody tell me? Yes. So 6.4 gigahertz is the right answer, because 16 into 400 megahertz will be about 6.4 gigahertz, right? And practically what will happen is, practically you will not have 6.4 gigahertz channel bandwidth. Why? Because the carrier aggregation will happen. One you will have in low band, one maybe you'll be having from a mid band, and one maybe you're having from a millimeter wave. So normally uh, the TSPs, telecom service provider, will be allocated frequency band, one in lower side 10 to 20 megahertz. From the mid band they may be located 100 megahertz, and from the millimeter wave side, maybe 400 megahertz or 600 megahertz, they can be allocated. So the carrier aggregation practically happen among that. And so what does that mean is that some frequencies are from FR1, some frequencies are from FR2, and all these frequencies you can have carrier aggregation in 5G. So now there is also a concept that initial deployment of 5G will be in a NSA mode. When I say NSA mode, can some of you answer me what is NSA? Mode of deployment of 5G new radio? Yeah, so when we say non-standalone, what do we mean?
We have to core network as the use the 5G.
Correct, very right. So basically, example can be that today in our country, Airtel, Jio, and Vi, all of them are having 4G network. They have invested in a 4G network which is there all across country. So what they can do is that wherever they get high data traffic, there they can deploy 5G new radio utilizing the same core network, right? Same core network, that is 4G, or we call it EPC. So this is NSA mode. So the carrier aggregation between LTE and 5G NR, we call it dual connectivity, because now 5G devices will be capable of connecting to 4G network, also to the 5G network, and there is also a concept where it can connect to both the networks simultaneously. So dual connectivity. So you can have double the data rate, because some part of the data can go from 4G, some part of the data can go from 5G, or maybe voice call is going from 4G and data call is going from 5G. So this is also a kind of carrier aggregation. We know this as a dual connectivity. And if you look at release 15 and 16 documents which I have shared, you will find that although there is a concept of aggregation of 16 component carriers, but release 15 and 16, so maximum of 1.2 gigahertz channel bandwidth concept they have come out with. Going forward, they will keep on evolving and go up to 16 carrier and larger channel bandwidth, theoretically up to 6.4 gigahertz. But as of now, up to 1.2 gigahertz of the spectrum can be aggregated. In fact, 3GPP, if you look at those specifications which I had shared, have given that which particular band can be aggregated with which other band, and what is the channel bandwidth from one band and channel bandwidth from other band. Various combinations can be used. So one of the important aspect is that the component carrier will be from say different band. So that means the numerology which they would be using are different. So the component carrier can use different numerology. So that is possible as part of carrier aggregation. And the second aspect is that we have seen the NR frequency bands. We had seen that some of the bands are defined as FDD, some of the bands are defined as TDD. All the newer band in millimeter wave are in TDD. Even the mid band, the gold band of 3.5 gigahertz is in TDD. So the carrier aggregation in lower band, which is FDD, and along with the mid band, which is TDD, is also possible. So both TDD and FDD can be aggregated. That means your device, when it is using data as part of carrier aggregation in the lower band, it will be using the FDD, and if it is using say mid band or millimeter wave, it will be using the TDD simultaneously. So that is also a possibility in 5G. And then that day somebody was talking about unlicensed band. So yes, the carrier aggregation with licensed and unlicensed band is also possible. That means one component carrier is from the licensed band N1, N2 and so on, and other is unlicensed band, maybe 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz where Wi-Fi is operating. So that is also a possibility in 5G. And finally, the carrier aggregation with supplementary channels, supplementary uplink and downlink frequency bands are also possible. So if you recall, we had in our chart of in our operating band, some of the bands were for SUL, supplementary uplink, and some of the bands were for supplementary downlink. So carrier aggregation with SUL or SDL is also possible. So one component carrier can be from the normal NR band, FDD or TDD, other can be of SUL. So these are various aspects of carrier aggregation in 5G. So what we saw is that carrier aggregation up to 16 carriers are possible. In case we are using normal NR band, so number of such component carrier will result into number of cells. So one of the cell will be primary cell, the rest of the cell will be secondary cell. Primary cell will carry the control as well as data. Secondary cells will only carry the data. In case of a supplementary link, either uplink or say downlink, one of the use case can be uplink coverage enhancement. So they become part of a single cell. This supplementary uplink or downlink becomes part of a single cell. The way these frequencies are configured, they are part of the same cell, not the different cell. So now let us look at some of the use cases of the carrier aggregation. Some of the use cases we discussed, and let us look at various use cases of carrier aggregation. So one of the important use case which many of you told in the chat or otherwise, that carrier aggregation will increase your channel bandwidth, hence your data rate. So can some of you think of any other use case of carrier aggregation? Can somebody open mic and in video and talk about that, or write in chat box? What can be some other use cases?
Basically, sir, that can be like streaming or real data, like high resolution data or VFR data, or 4K, HD data, streaming or live streaming, because we need eventually the high data.
Yes, it is. You are right. So basically, since you are getting the larger channel bandwidth, all those applications which is data hungry will be using carrier aggregation to have smooth or better service. Okay, so let us discuss some more use cases. So just look at this. So we talked about this, about the dual connectivity in NSA mode. So in this example, what we are trying to show you. This I have taken from one of the white paper of Jetty. So last year in November they had come up with beautifully explained. So in this example, we have taken a two component carrier. One is 2.1 gigahertz, which is also used in India. Another is say 3.5 gigahertz. So 2.1 gigahertz we are using for LTE. So this blue coverage which you see here in this picture, we are calling it as area A, is kind of uh, coverage of LTE, and the green one is the frequency band, which is 2.1 gigahertz is our LTE band. So you'll be covering a larger area. So from here till the end, your LTE base station is covering. And since you have also deployed 5G new radio in an NSA mode, but on 3.5 gigahertz, so coverage of 5G will be limited by this blue one, which is kind of area A, right? So in area A, our device is getting signal from 4G as well as 5G. So from 4G signal, it can do downlink traffic and also uplink traffic. And also because there is a coverage of 5G also in 3.5 gigahertz in this area, so it can also use 5G for downlink and uplink. And these are possible simultaneously. So that's why we call it dual connectivity. So in this area, all the mobile which are 5G capable can have a concept of dual connectivity. That means two carriers are getting aggregated, one from 5G side, other from the 4G side, and data rate will be enhanced data rate. But if you look at the rest of the area, right? So what will happen is, as far as downlink is concerned, because on the tower I can increase power or I can have more power transmitted. So on the downlink side, this mobile can receive 5G signal, but uplink would not be possible because of form factor of the device. So for uplink, it may be using the 4G, right? So here what is happening is that all those signaling and uplink traffic are happening on 4G, but for downlink traffic, it can use 4G as well as 5G. So in fact, in this dual connectivity, we have enhanced coverage of 5G for downlink. Just remember, for downlink my coverage is enhanced, and for uplink and control signaling I am using the 4G uplink, because in NSA mode all those signaling actually our NR works as a slave or secondary node, and LT node works as a primary node. So all the traffic in fact goes through the 4G NR, right? There is a connectivity between 4G and 5G base station on a standard interface. So that way we are able to increase 5G coverage at least in the downlink side. So this is a concept of dual connectivity where the carrier aggregation is being used. Yeah, please.
What will happen? So I understand that in area B you will still have some downlink coverage of 5G.
Correct.
But then let's say you have area C, which is greater than area B, and then there will come a point where 5G downlink will also not be possible.
So in that case, if there is a 4G coverage, since all 5G devices will also support 4G, so it will utilize the 4G coverage.
So you will say that in that coverage area it is not dual, there is no dual connectivity.
Cannot be, not possible, no, because you don't have 5G. We have coverage of only one frequency band from 4G, so it will have some coverage of 4G, and since devices 5G devices will support 4G, it will utilize up to that extent. Yeah, please.
I have one question.
Please do. Yeah. Please go ahead.
The thing is, see, I don't have much idea about it. That's why. whether our handset will act accordingly.
Yes, yes.
Downlink.
Right. So let me explain you. So basically, there is a specification. 3GPP specifications are evolving from release 15 to 16 to 17 and 18. So suppose in release 15 was kind of done in three tranches, tranche 1, tranche 2 and tranche 3. So if you look at initial 5G devices, they were supporting release 15, say the first version. So that those devices were not supporting carrier aggregation. So if you have a 5G device which was supplied in say 2019, may not support carrier aggregation. That is one. The second important aspect is, if you look at your 4G device, all of you are having, or 5G device you may be having, because now 5G devices have started coming. If you just look at the specification, it says that which frequency bands they are supporting, right? So a device cannot be manufactured to support all the frequency band which 5G is supporting, because it's very from low band to mid band to high band. So those devices are manufactured in supporting certain bands. Suppose if it is being supplied to India, so they look at which frequency bands are operational and they design for that those frequency bands only. And as I said that 3.5 gigahertz is your golden band. So generally, if you see your mobile, if you have a 5G mobile, it must be supporting 3.5 gigahertz. So now coming to your question that if a device has to support dual connectivity, simultaneous connectivity to 4G and 5G, it should be compliant to release 16 where all these concepts came. Otherwise, if your device is slightly older, it may not take benefit of whatever concept are coming in the subsequent releases. There is one more example I can give you. There is a concept of dynamic spectrum sharing, right? Wherein uh, the 4G spectrum is dynamically allocated for 5G coverage, right? So it's on a dynamic basis. Every 1 millisecond, certain frequency and time resources are for 4G and certain for 5G, depending upon where you have more traffic or less traffic. So your devices cannot by default utilize that particular concept, because for dynamic spectrum sharing also there is certain requirement towards device side. So unless that device is manufactured supporting DSS, you may not take advantage of that, right? If your device is not supporting, you cannot have advantage of that. That was even true in 4G. Most of our devices earlier in 4G were not supporting carrier aggregation, right? But later on devices were supporting carrier aggregation. In India also, if you look at say Geo, so they are having frequency in 900 megahertz, which 800, 900 megahertz, which they took from the earlier Reliance Communications, and they have, I think, 2.5 gigahertz frequency band, 1.8 gigahertz. They also bought it from Airtel. So whenever they are deploying multiple frequencies in a particular area, they are using carrier aggregation to support. So newer devices are supporting those kind of carrier aggregation, right? Older devices may not support. So it will latch to only one component carrier and you can use it. Even if your network is supporting carrier aggregation with certain number of component carrier, if your device do not support, it will latch to one of the carrier component which is primary cell normally, and it will be utilizing in a normal way. It will not take benefit of carrier aggregation. I hope I answered your question, Shomya Basuji.
Yes, please. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's move to the next use case, which is interband carrier aggregation, right? So just look at this particular picture. So in this example, we have this example says that I have two carrier component, and on both carrier component, new radio, 5G new radio is transmitting. The first one is say 2.1 gigahertz, and the second one is say 3.5 gigahertz. So generally 2.5, 2.1 gigahertz will have a larger coverage. So just see, the larger one is your coverage B, which is the bigger one, and the second component carrier is 3.5 gigahertz, which is smaller one. So similar to our dual connectivity, so the devices which are here will reap benefit of the carrier aggregation, where they can utilize the 2.1 gigahertz and also 3.5 gigahertz, so their channel bandwidth will increase and their data rate will increase, and it will be in both uplink and downlink direction. On the other side, on the greener area, what you see is that in this area for uplink and downlink, they have to use the 2.1 gigahertz component carrier, and for downlink they can utilize the other one, right? So basically in this area there will be a larger capacity of data rate. In this area there will be slightly lower data rate. Now let us take one example of how
May I ask a question?
yeah, please, yeah.
Sir, in the earlier slide,
Shall I go there?
yes, sir, please. So you showed for the downlink CA, you showed one blue line and one green line.
Yes.
Carrier one. So is the blue line 3.5? I think it must be 3.5.
Yeah, blue line is 3.5. You can see because generally for uplink and downlink combined coverage area is less, but downlink can go slightly more. Uplink may not be possible. So this second device can actually enjoy even the 3.5 gigahertz in downlink direction, but not in uplink direction.
Right. So that downlink that is coming, is it because of beamforming that we are able to extend the range of 3.5?
Yeah, the one concept. So beam forming is one. Secondly, otherwise also the coverage is limited by our device because of the form factor. From the device, the transmit power is only 2 watt, whereas the base station transmit power is about 40 watts. So the downlink direction coverage would always be higher. Your device, whatever power it is pumping, it cannot be reaching the base station side. I mean, in equal distance of downlink, right?
Okay. Got it, sir. Got it, sir.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so this particular use case is for increasing the 5G coverage by deploying supplementary uplink frequency, right? So basically, if you look at this particular picture, just see the inner circle which you see, right? So let us take an example of some high band or mid band frequency is deployed. So the coverage area is this, where uplink and downlink both would be possible. Now the extended circle, this one, this part, in this part for the same frequency, downlink may be possible with the same explanation which we discussed. So how to do uplink, because I am not having a new component carrier. So maybe I can, in the same cell, I can deploy a supplementary uplink frequency band. If you recall, there were certain frequencies which can be used as a supplementary uplink. So all those uplink traffic can go on the supplementary link, and on the downlink I can use the existing NR band, right? So that way I am able to extend the coverage slightly more from the actual uplink downlink coverage of a NR band by utilizing a supplementary link. Is there any question on this, or shall I go to the next slide? Okay, let me go to the next slide. Same aspect. So what is happening? Same example. You saw it, that the bluer area is the coverage of the normal NR band, where the device can do uplink and downlink both. The supplementary channel is giving a larger coverage there. So in this area, even downlink of the NR band would be possible. For uplink traffic, For uplink traffic, it will be using the supplementary channel. So supplementary, the frequency band will normally be on lower side, right? So that it will have larger coverage. So this way we can enhance coverage of 5G. This is one of the technique whereby the coverage of 5G will be enhanced and will be made equal to 4G coverage in the initial deployments.
Sir, is there any relation between the NR band uplink limit, means uplink, and downlink, that is because downlink is possible for extended location, but uplink is limited. So, is there any relation, particular relation, that this much more the downlink is possible?
Yeah, so basically, it all depends upon the link budget analysis, depending upon what kind of geography it has to cover, whether it's a high-rise building, whether it's a rural area. So I think I will take one session on link budget, which will make clear about how much distance we are able to cover with certain frequency band. So it will follow that particular aspect. And we will also see that in downlink our coverage goes higher and uplink it coverage is limited. So we limit it to normally the device side coverage for planning a network, but with supplementary channels we can plan even based on whatever device support is there. Okay, so shall I proceed?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so now let's talk about the carrier aggregation in unlicensed band. So basically the concept is that suppose there is a one uh, component carrier which is licensed from a normal NR band and other is an unlicensed. So we can aggregate and the devices can utilize the combined channel bandwidth for a higher data rate. So that is one is that it is possible in 5G. 5G is getting designed for that. Now there are two concepts, right? One is that suppose we have 4G network, right? So we have EPC, we have LT base station, and suppose we deploy new radio, 5G new radio in unlicensed band, which is kind of anchored with LT. As I said that in NSA mode, uh, the NR-BTS, 5G BTS is anchored through the 4G base station, that is LT base station. So in this case, what this device will do is connect to LT and also connect to the NR, the dual connectivity which we just saw earlier, and have enhanced data rate capability, right? But it is also possible that I have complete 5G network and we have a new radio. I also deploy a new radio on unlicensed band. So this is called NR anchored kind of CA, where the new radio is anchoring the other new radio in unlicensed band. So here also the data rate gets enhanced because this device connects to this new radio and also to this new radio. So one of the example can be suppose in an indoor in your office you have deployed or operator has deployed the 5G base station in unlicensed band and you are also getting coverage of a new radio from outside. So your device can aggregate such channel bandwidth and utilize this for a higher data rate. So that is the concept of carrier aggregation in unlicensed band. So with this I have covered uh, the carrier aggregation part. The next topic and last topic of last session is bandwidth part. So before I proceed, let me ask some of you that what is bandwidth part? If you know it, please answer. or you say that I do not know in the chat box so that I proceed. Some of you can. I think I talked about bandwidth part while I was speaking in my previous sessions. If some of you have, I mean,
Yes, sir. So it is the part of the largest spectrum allocated to an operator.
yeah. So can you open your video also so that I see you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I'll do that.
Yes. So no issue. I think it's okay. Everyone would be at home and also doesn't matter. Yeah.
No, I'm sitting in the library.
Acha, great. Okay.
So it is part of it is some component of the bandwidth allocated to as an operator.
Yes, you are right.
Bandwidth.
Yes, 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 you are right, and it is more to do with the devices which I talked about. Anybody else want to say something about bandwidth part? Or in chat, not known. Somebody says Satish ji said not known. Part of allocated bandwidth. Nitin Bhandari ji said. Good. Anybody else? Okay, let's move forward. No.
Is it if a bandwidth is, we are broadcasting the signal over a bandwidth, but now GUI are supporting the part of the bandwidth.
Yes, you are right. So that is also one of the use case of bandwidth part. Very right. Very right.
So it can be because like for different applications, allocation of different bandwidth at different intervals of time.
You are also right that if I am uh, using a service which requires higher bandwidth, I'll use a bandwidth part which is more in size. If I am using a service which requires less bandwidth, I am using a lesser part of the bandwidth. So that is also a right answer. So Dheeraj has said that resource blocks configured inside a channel bandwidth. Yeah, right. So okay, so let's look at a bandwidth part. So if you see 4G, let us talk about 4G LTE. In 4G, all the UEs have to support full carrier bandwidth, right? So if the channel bandwidth being used is say 20 megahertz in 4G, so device has to support entire 20 megahertz, whether it is accessing a service which is not requiring higher data rate or whether it is using a service which requires a higher data rate. In all cases, in 4G LTE, the UV will support the full carrier bandwidth, right? We know that in 5G, my channel bandwidth, possible channel bandwidth is up to 400 megahertz in FR2. So, our user equipment are not required to support the entire channel bandwidth or carrier bandwidth. It can support part of that. So what is a bandwidth part? It is subset of contiguous common physical resource blocks. Somebody answered it rightly. That out of all the RBs possible, a set of RB which has to be contiguous is called bandwidth part, right? And it is possible that each bandwidth part is using a different numerology, right? That is different subcarrier spacing. Example is suppose one bandwidth part is from a band which is lower side, maybe using FR1, the other BWP, if it is frequency band is mid band, it may be using numerology which is 30 kilohertz or 60 kilohertz. And normal user equipment can be configured up to 4 BWP in uplink and 4 BWP in downlink, right? So there are 4 bandwidth part configured in a device, and device can use one of the bandwidth part at a time. So the one question which is coming from Priyank is that what is a typical allocation of bandwidth to a UV in say LTE with a channel bandwidth of 20 hertz and 20 megahertz, I think you were talking about. So basically, if you look at 4G, So your device or user equipment has to support entire channel bandwidth, right? Entire channel bandwidth all the time, right? Whether the resources allocated are less or more, but it is utilizing the entire channel bandwidth, so it is consuming more power. Whereas 5G, it can utilize one of the BWP. So as I said, suppose the device is supporting 400 megahertz, but within 400 megahertz you may have multiple bandwidth part up to 4. So in a device, so maybe one bandwidth part is 100 megahertz, other bandwidth part is 50 megahertz, other bandwidth part is 5 megahertz, and so on. So 4 bandwidth part can be configured. Once that is configured, the device can utilize one of the bandwidth parts. Suppose it is just using a browsing, right, which do not require high data rate. So it may use a bandwidth part of 5 megahertz total bandwidth. If it is doing a video streaming, right, so it may use the entire channel bandwidth of 400 megahertz. So that way it efficiently uses the bandwidth part or part of the total channel bandwidth, so that resources are efficiently utilized, power consumption is less.
Sir, I am having one question.
Yeah.
Satish.
Yes.
Sir, this bandwidth allocation, what the government is doing, so that is the same for all the service provider, or there are different bands for all? Like for example, G will have some range, then Tata will have different range, or maybe Vodafone will have different range. Is it like that, or how it is?
So very good question, Satish ji. I will explain it to you. So for example, suppose I tell you that if suppose government says decides that in mid band, say 3.5 gigahertz, it will allocate a channel bandwidth size of 100 megahertz to say 4 TSPs, right? So that means the government is having in that band, suppose that band is total size of that band is say 600 megahertz. So it will divide that into chunk. We call it component carrier. So say component carrier, one component carrier is 100 megahertz, other is again 100 megahertz. Those are different frequencies within that particular band. For example, suppose from 3000 megahertz to 3100 megahertz is one carrier component. Then from 3100 megahertz to 3200 megahertz is the other carrier component, and so on. So suppose government has 4 carrier component. So what it will do is it will auction, in India we auction it, and these operators will quote for that. Once, I mean, they win the tender or the auction process, they will be allocated say 100 megahertz. Each of them would be allocated separate 100 megahertz. Say Jio has 100 megahertz, Airtel has 100 megahertz, VI has 100 megahertz, BSNL has 100 megahertz. Those are not common. Within the same band also, they will have different carrier components. So they will not interfere with each other, right? And within that 100 megahertz, if they deploy, they can create the bandwidth part, so that the devices are not required to always use 100 megahertz. It can use the part of that 100 megahertz channel bandwidth. Satish ji, am I clear?
Yeah, but I have not understood one part, that why government is doing the auction. Actually, this is the natural thing, correct? Means it is like I am getting the sunlight from the sun, and I am trying to distribute to the different people, and I am taking the money.
So basically, world across, yeah, correct. So world across, the natural resources, right? Most of the natural resources like coal or like spectrum are kind of considered as a government asset, and they generate revenue and they do the development work. So I think that's a different, altogether different policy aspect. Satish ji.
But tell me, like when we are doing this blocking of say 100 megahertz as a band, so is it there like if one particular band is superior than other band or like that, or everything will work properly and with the same efficiency? Means it will happen that I had allocated first 100 to say Geo and second 100 to Vodafone and third 100 to say Airtel. So Airtel will may perform better than the Geo because it is at that different band, or if there is no such thing.
Yeah, you are right. So suppose that's why if you look at different auctions, so the reserve price for 700 megahertz bands are higher compared to reserve price of the higher bands, right? If you go to the millimeter wave on the same price, you can get very large channel bandwidth, right? Large channel bandwidth in a lesser cost. So yes, the lower frequency bands are costlier because it gives you larger coverage, and higher frequency bands compared to that would be slightly less costly. So in that sense, during the auction, operator decides that which frequency band they are applying for, right? So suppose 700 megahertz option is going on and all four TSPs are actually participating, so they will quote their price, right? And government will just take the highest one. So whosoever. So suppose there are many carrier components for which everyone has bidded. So in that particular part, whosoever has bid higher will get that frequency band, right? So it is all auctioning process whereby these resources are allocated. Those who give more money to government gets better spectrum bands. Is that okay? Okay, let me proceed. So, an additional 4 BWP can also be configured for supplementary uplink. As we saw in carrier aggregation, that there is a concept of supplementary uplink. So, additional 4 BWP can also be used there by a particular device. But at a time, only one BWP would be active. That user equipment cannot use multiple BWP simultaneously. It has to use only one at a time. It can switch to the next, but at a time it will be using only one. So let us look at various use cases.
May I ask a question, sir?
Yeah, please.
So for the earlier slide, when you say that this VWP will be configured, so the network will use the signaling path to tell the handset which one to use? Or how is it, sir?
Yes. It is not hard configured. It is between UV and the network will decide the bandwidth part to be used, right? So basically, there is a concept of uh, UV capability, right? So every UV will have certain capability. For example, if a UV is designed for say IoT sensor, it may be designed for a very low channel bandwidth in lower frequency band. So the UV tells to the network that what is its UV capability in terms of there are many other parameters in the UV capability, and accordingly the UV and network would kind of negotiate all those parameters, including which BWP. And it is important, very right question. It is all important because suppose UV is operating in a BWP which is 5 megahertz, right? Only 5 megahertz. So all the signaling has to come within that 5 megahertz for that UV, right? So if suppose base station do not know and it is transmitting the control channels somewhere else beyond that BWP, then UV will not work. So the way 5G has been designed, that every BWP supported will have complete set of control signaling also, so that UV is independently able to work within that BWP. Is that okay, Giriji?
So, after
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
if there are multiple views in that way, so each UI will have
we are allocating different BWP or the same BWP?
Yeah, so very right question by you, that in a coverage area there will be n number of UE supporting different, having different capability in terms of channel bandwidth, and they may have different BWP. So yes, from the base station side, uh, it actually supports the entire bandwidth, and it will support all the BWP supported in the network. So one device may support, say, uh, a set of BWP, other device may support a other set of BWP. But as far as base station is concerned, it will be supporting all. So in that sense, uh, but if a common BWP is there, suppose there is a BWP which is 5 megahertz bandwidth in a particular carrier component, so for that BWP, all those control signaling and other signaling coming from base station can be common for all the UV supporting that BWP. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, so let us look at various use cases of bandwidth part. So,
So I have a question then.
yeah, please.
So this BWP will also decide the user experience differences. Then in the same similar domain, let's say a 5G radio is there, but with different BWP support in the devices might have different access in the same battery.
Possible, it is possible that suppose you have bought a UV device only supporting say 5 megahertz channel bandwidth, and it will use a single BWP of 5 megahertz. So definitely the data rate which it can achieve maximum would be limited to that 5 megahertz channel bandwidth. And if the other device is supporting 400 megahertz bandwidth, so the user experience of that would be better. So depending upon what device I am using, yes, my user experience will be different. So that's obvious. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and then it will have some impact on the cost also for the UV.
Yes, that's why. So why this BWP will be important, because suppose everywhere now 5G IoT sensors are getting installed in your fridge, in your AC, in your car, in your bicycle, everywhere. So that particular chip, IoT chip, has to be less complex, less costly, right? So it will be configured for a smaller BWP only, right? Because of to avoid complexity, to have better energy efficiency and all. So yes, if a device is supporting lesser bandwidth or lesser bandwidth part, so the cost will definitely be less, because there will be less hardware inside, and it will also be energy efficient, right?
Okay.
Thank you, Amit. So let us look at various use cases. So let us look at the first one, that suppose the overall channel bandwidth is this much, and one BWP is which is active is this much in a UE. So basically we are saying that it is supporting reduced UV bandwidth capability. Your question, Amit, that whether a device can be manufactured with a smaller channel bandwidth, yes, and it can use the lesser bandwidth. Although the overall carrier is higher, but it is designed for a specific BWP. The second is that supporting reduced UV energy consumption. So for example, suppose BWP is this much larger, which the device will be using when it requires a higher data rate. But it is also having a second BWP part, which is kind of a subset of BWP1. So whenever it requires a lesser data rate, it may use the bandwidth part too, right? And the third use case is that I have two component carrier in the overall carrier. So I may use numerology 1 in bandwidth part 1, numerology 2 in bandwidth part 2. As you know that different usage scenario may be using different numerology. Higher numerology for those services which are requiring low latency, ultra reliability, and lower numerology for services which requires deep coverage, IoT sensors, etc. So, so the device can use any of the BWP as required by it, right? And the next use case is that it can support non-contiguous spectrum. So if there are,
May I ask a question?
yeah, please.
Sir, in the earlier slide, when you showed that the handset can do or a device can do two BWP, but you said that we can do only one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time. So how it will happen is, suppose this you're talking about this use case, right? Second one,
So the last one, sir.
the last one, right? So last one is that suppose there are two BWP, right? So one BWP is numerology 1 and other say is numerology 2, second numerology. So what? So in this example, let us understand that suppose the device is is kind of using a service which is kind of coverage related, right? Coverage related, right? So in that case, it will be using this BWP, and suppose the second BWP is using a service which is kind of, suppose you are using a service called autonomous vehicle, right? So in that case, it is say I mean the numerology being used is 260 kilohertz. In that case, it can use say BWP. So here, what is to understand is that if there are multiple BWP, it is possible to use different numerology in different BWPs, right? That is the main idea behind it.
Okay, okay. That means we can use more than one BWP. So the numerology has to be different, right?
Yeah, but not simultaneously, one at a time. One at a time. Or you can do it simultaneously if you are using carrier aggregation.
Okay.
Whatever I am saying, I am talking about one carrier,
One carry, one.
right? One carrier. If you want to use carrier aggregation, then yes, it will be, because you will be using two, in fact, practically two transmit or three receive complete chain, right?
Correct, correct. Got it, sir. Got it, sir. Thank you.
One question.
Yeah,
How
please.
is the numerology decided in every BW? What is the criteria for that?
So if you recall my last session, so basically the lower frequency bands will be using the lower side of numerology. Higher frequency bands will be utilizing the higher numerologies. If you try to say in a different word, like if you requiring a better latency, so you'll be using higher numerology and higher side of frequency band. If you require deep coverage, then you'll be using the lower frequency band, lower numerology. Your latency may not be better because the signal has to travel a larger distance and come back, so latency may not be good, and you have to avoid all those inter-symbol interference because multiple path uh, signal would be received. So that's why latency requirement cannot be met in the lower frequency where I am using the lower subcarrier spacing or numerology. Is that okay, Soumya ji?
So sir, I have a further question. So
Yeah.
supposedly I'm using a higher bandwidth where I have to do numerology, right? So
Okay.
I'm using a higher band.
Right.
And supposedly there are many units that are connected to the same bandwidth, right? The same bandwidth.
Right.
In that case, what will be the criteria that the EOT, supposedly one EOT is EOT based, which is other might be part. So in that case, there is one bandwidth part maybe allocated to different users, right?
Right.
So when you're talking about the numerology, is it that between the bandwidth part also, you may have different numerology, for example, the data, no, that will not happen, right? So what is the criteria in that case?
So actually I didn't get your question, but let me try and explain it again. So
what I mean is, if you have a bandwidth part, right?
right.
Now the bandwidth part, the same bandwidth part will be allocated to many users, right?
Correct.
So in that case, And each UE will have a different criteria, right? Different requirement. In
So
that case, how does the EOD decide?
so let's understand that as far as devices are concerned, right? So devices would be having certain capability and they will support certain channel bandwidth, and that channel bandwidth device can configure up to 4 BWP. Suppose I have 100 megahertz, so I can have 4 BWP or certain defined number of RBs. Those are already given in the specification. So I decide, suppose one BWP is 5 megahertz, other is 50 megahertz, and overall is 100 megahertz, right? So I have a 4 bandwidth part. Similarly, the other devices would also have. So other device may have only 5 megahertz, and the third device, fourth device, and also the numerology associated with each bandwidth part. So basically, if you see permutation combination of all bandwidth part with the numerology and the particular RBs, so there will be a set of PWP which base station has to support because it has to cater to all the UEs, right? So base station will support a larger set of such BWP, and accordingly in each BWP it has to transmit the entire signaling, right? A set of BWP means if suppose one BWP may be supporting same component carrier or same bandwidth but with different numerology, right? So that becomes a different set. So all the UAs currently on a BWP, say X, which is similar for base station, all those control signaling or same control signaling can be used for all the UAs who are in the coverage area, right? And similar is for other BWP. Is that clear to you?
So what you mean is, DOD will allocate a set of BWP, and depending on the use requirement, it will
Yeah, yeah.
then allocate four maximum four BWP to each.
So yes. One UV can have 4 BWP, but active one at a time.
So, sir, you
Yeah,
So
please.
only one can be active.
Yes. I'll show you one picture in the upcoming slide, which will make it clear.
Okay.
So, sir, UE decides, can decide the numerology that he will be, the device will be operating in this time, or the telecom provider will decide
So
the numerology.
yeah, so it is basically for a service which is being supported by the network decides which numerology, right? It is not the UE. So UE would be using that service, right? UE will have capability to do all kind of numerology, but the network and the service. For example, if a service requires a particular numerology to be there to support certain latency requirement, then the network will also support and UE will also support. So the UE negotiate with the network to use a particular bandwidth part and also the numerology required, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the bandwidth part is also useful when we have non-contiguous spectrum. So there also one can be used, say BWP1, other is BWP2, and in between whatever is there can be used in future, which is not known today. That particular part of the frequency band. Similarly, we say for forward compatibility also, something is new and not defined, we can leave that particular part and rest we can use as a BWP. So this is for supporting future services. Okay, this was the Soumya question also, like at a time one BWP would be active. So just see, this is the entire channel bandwidth or the carrier uh, bandwidth, you can say. So suppose on the this axis it is time, and on this axis it is kind of a frequency channel bandwidth. So a device initially BWP, which is a smaller one, just see smaller. For this much time it is BWP1 is active. After this time, suppose BW2 becomes active, which is utilizing the entire channel bandwidth. And again, after some time, BWP1 one becomes active. So basically, at a time, one BWP will be active for a user equipment. This is for user equipment, right? Okay. This I was also discussing that every BWP, if a device is using, suppose this BWP in a new radio, it will expect that all control signaling happens within this BWP only, right? Because my a device may be designed for a smaller channel bandwidth and it will be using a smaller BWP. So what is corset? Some of you know it. What is corset? Yes. So basically all those control resources, right? Different control resources has to be within the same BWP to work, right? If you compare this with LTE, in LTE channel bandwidth, right? So your this control signal used to be present. So in that case, there was no possibility to use concept of BWP because your control channels are spread across the entire channel bandwidth, right? So somebody said that is there any minimum number of RBs in a BWP? Yes, there has to be a minimum of that, as the minimum channel bandwidth supported in 5G in FR1 is 5 megahertz. So your BWP size has to be 5 megahertz generally, right? Generally, right? And also just understand that there is also a requirement of the uh, synchronization signal, which actually takes certain number of RBs. In fact, it takes uh, 20 RBs, right? So basically, so that's why we say that minimum 5 megahertz channel bandwidth would be required, because 20 RBs are required only for the synchronization signal at a certain time period. Rest of the time it can be used for data. So 5 megahertz is the minimum channel bandwidth. So for BWP also the equivalent number of RBs would be required. This question was from uh, Vidya Lakshmi ji. Okay. So with this I have covered this part. The left out part of that. If you have any questions, you please ask.